I'm Zach Collins. This is
Joe Briggs,
from.
Public Policy Council, National Football League Players Association.
Now, going into this panelist, obviously people know Larry Johnson. He was one of the running backs, I would say, in the last decade who really stood out. And then I knew Tommy Harris, me being an Oklahoma fan, so I had to do my research on you and coming to find out you played football at TCU, correct?
I did.
So you told us about how you went from TCU to FAMU.
I did.
So where was your transition from football to where you are now being a lawyer?
So my transition came at a moment. Actually, I started thinking about transition before I left TCU. Right. I was a guy that thought that football was going to be it for me, but I always knew that the average NFL career was about 3 years. So I looked at a potential professional football career as a venture capital opportunity. Unfortunately for me, the day after I graduated from TCU, I got into a car accident that took away my opportunities to become a professional football player. So that meant for me that I had to figure out another way to fund the dreams that I had already planned with the football money that wasn't going to come in. Right? So transition came to me like it comes to most guys, which has been like a hallmark of my career. So for the last 13 seasons, I've been at the NFL Players Association, helping guys with transition. So I'm a lawyer, I do all the other stuff, but in that moment when I got into the car accident, it crystallized for me that I'm no longer on scholarship, that check that I was getting last month ain't coming in next month.
Yes.
And that these bills are going to be on my doorstep as soon as I get them.
Immediately.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So I had to figure out what was going to replace that piece, that chunk that was now missing, and that was transition for me.
Okay. Now, replacing that piece that you talk about, is it ever fully replaced with, I would say, what you wanted to do with football? Would you say it's replaced?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be your authentic self, right? Like, so for me, football wasn't a thing that dominated my life. Football was a tool that was in my tool belt that I used. I only played 1 year of high school football, and that 1 year of high school football was enough to give me all the accolades and stuff that I needed to get a scholarship to play in Division I football.
Yes, sir.
So I was lucky and fortunate enough that I had coaches that 1 year that I played in high school football that explained to me that this was just a tool, not something that I needed to let become who I was. So I remained the guy that I always was. I love my schooling, I love my books. I demanded to have the major that I wanted to major in. I was a business major when I was at TCU, so I had a game plan together. I had a business plan that included the venture capital investment of a professional career. I just had to find a replacement for that, and that's how I helped with my transition.
Okay. Now, with you being, I would say your mindset would be likely like mine, but we understand that football was a means to an end. For a lot of players that you work with, it's not the same mindset. So how do you tap into them and try to change their outlook on everything? Because that's kind of what you're doing right now with this panel we just had, is changing the, I would say, the outlook that we have in general, but more so focus on what we're talking about now is changing it from just solely being a football player to being, like you said, your true self, Joe Briggs, no matter what.
Well, so I think that guys like you, Zach, can help me, and folks watching this can help. By the time they get to the professional ranks, it's almost too late. We have to spend more time teaching these young men and women that participate in athletics that the athletics that they participate in is an activity. It's not who they are, it's an activity.
Definitely.
Period. If that activity generates revenue, if that activity generates opportunities for you, if that activity gets you in spaces that you could not otherwise be, great. But you were already a whole person before you started participating in that activity.
Very much so.
So how are you feeding yourself? Not only what food are you taking in, but what books are you reading? What mentality are you bringing to the situation? Focusing in on that and going back and being mentors to those kids that are participating in those activities well before they become college athletes, or even before they become professional athletes, maybe even before they become high school athletes, and helping them develop those internal skills so that they can be their authentic self. That's how we help. That's how we be better about all this stuff, not just these athletes that are in the professional ranks. Because a real big part of this forum tonight was talking about, like, social activism, social justice, and why pro athletes won't do more, right? Like that was one of the questions that came up. Well, you can't go to somebody who's already built their house and ask them why they built their house, because they don't have to respond to you. The house is already built. You gotta go to them when they're thinking through the material that they're gonna use to build a house. Wait a second. If you're gonna use this material to build this house, well, why don't we do it this way? Maybe you should consider doing it that way. That's what I think every time I go speak to middle school kids and little league kids and even some high school kids about what their life is going to look like if it's going to include athletics. These are the seeds that I'm going to plant into you so that you care about the social justice issues now, so that you know how to stand firmly when you get to the money. You can stand in yourself, you can be authentic, and you can also make sure you secure the bag. All those things are important.
The bag is needed. So, do you feel like this, I would say this forum tonight, helped you get that goal accomplished that you just described?
I mean, I hope I woke somebody up tonight, but if I didn't, you can hit me up on Twitter at Joe Briggs ESQ.
I'm gonna definitely need that follow once we finish this interview. But thank you, sir.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Man,
sir.
are you getting these kicks though? Man, Zach, you gotta tell me where you got those from.
We'll talk about it off here. I can't give my people that.
That's true. That's true. I get you.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Thank you.
We good? Yeah. Thank you, sir.